Starting.
Ready?
All
Hello,
right.
good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon, viewers. My name is Kareem Panton, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of JA++ Web Design. Welcome to our podcast, 876 Online, where we discuss all things that are entrepreneurial and tech in the Jamaican space. Of course, today I'm joined by my Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Alexander Paul, and my Chief Technical Officer, Mr. David Young. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing well, doing well.
All right, good to hear, good to hear. So we had our first episode last week and things went pretty well. The conversation was fluid. We've been meaning to do this for a long time, so we're glad we could finally make it happen. And now for those of you tuning in with us for the first time, this is episode 2, where we will be covering the madness of Jamaican entrepreneurship. Just a little background for viewers out there, JA++ started back in 2015. So we've been at this for a little over 3 years now. Or was it May 27th?
Mm-hmm.
May 27, 2015, we officially stepped forward. And that was when we were doing Link Up, our social media application that a few of you may be familiar with. It launched at UA and UTech January 2016. But yeah, we've definitely been through a lot, learned a lot, failed a lot. And here we are, not doing too bad if I say so ourselves. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Since we're talking about entrepreneurship, that's something that we've been battling with successfully so far, I'd feel.
Yeah, we're on an upward trend.
Yeah, I'd agree with that completely. So when it comes to being an entrepreneur, obviously it varies, like in the space you're in, the team you're with, and what it is that your product or service is bringing to your target audience. What we bumped into more often than not is really a number of issues that come into place being an entrepreneur back home, like being an entrepreneur in Jamaica. There are a lot of things that, you know, you see the stories of like amazing entrepreneurs, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Elon Musks that made it big, and they went through like several series of seeding, funding, all that kind of stuff to help get financial support for their idea. Unfortunately, in Jamaica, we don't have those same resources at the same level. So that was definitely one of the biggest things for us that I was bumping into back in the day, 2015, 2016. Is there anything major that stood out to you guys, even coming off of that finances conversation?
Well, for me, it's that the entrepreneurship myth that we're familiar with of a bunch of people getting together and pushing their great idea out there, and everybody will come forward and things will work out great. It's popular in America because America has more of a free market structure. It has all of these resources. In Jamaica, there are a lot of moving parts that are under the control of a few people because resources are so limited that there are really only a few people doing any type of real investment in the startup space. There are only a few people who can help you do financial services. There are only a few advertising venues that you can use reliably. Everything is just so narrow and bottlenecked. It's not as easy to just come up with your own thing and get the moving parts together.
Yeah, agreed. Like even when we started doing a bit more research, I know that entire myth you're just talking about, like if you build it, they will come. That's a myth even in the US, but definitely a lot easier to lean on that while you're, you know, overseas versus in Jamaica, because you're dealing with an entirely different culture. As you said, you're dealing with like bottleneck when it comes to funding. So even if you have this great idea, which we did, we put together, we had a strong team. We had a lot of support from our family, our friends, beta testers, all this kind of stuff. It's really hard to make it with like no money to back you. So yeah, that's probably one of the most difficult things that I know we had bumped into. And I remember even halfway through, or no, maybe September-ish, 2015. Yeah, I was just starting UA. And I remember you, Alex, were doing a lot of research into funding, like seeking funding, angel investors, all this kind of stuff. Right. You know, these like key terms that we barely even hear tossed around in Jamaica because they just aren't there.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I also noticed was, to build off that, is the lack of trust is part of the reason why the investment is so low. The average Jamaican trusts so little that it's madness. I know this is something that David has commented on in the past, but I feel us taking a more friendly approach in our emails and how we speak and how we address things has definitely helped us.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's just that most people really don't trust, so why would they trust you with their money? There are even people who are afraid to download your app because they think it's going to do something.
And then that causes a problem where you don't have users, you don't have customers, consumers, really. So you can't even learn from the decisions that you're making because you just don't have enough bodies using your service to make mistakes and to offer suggestions and feedback. So you can't even, it's a very steep curve to getting to a point where you can start to improve on the service that you have to make it more marketable and to find that product market fit.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember even when we were like iterating on LinkUp, that was something that we were doing, trying to learn from the users at one point. But the thing is, when you're learning from 6 or 7 people,
Exactly.
by the time you fix that one problem, the 8th person finds something entirely new.
Yeah.
And when you're doing this overseas and you have the backing, you have people that are downloading and are aggressively testing because you kind of either one, pay them to, or two, they know that you're going somewhere because you already have the funding. There's just so much more that you can do. In our case, we were doing these iterations with such small sample sizes that it's really hard to tell if the reason people were uninstalling was because of issue A or issue B. Because obviously when you're just starting, there's going to be a list of things, not even necessarily with the design or functionality of the app, but maybe the message, maybe how you're communicating it and who you're communicating it to.
Yeah. So I guess with that said, then what would you guys recommend as the route for people to take with entrepreneurship, because there's a lack of funding and lack of engagement with customers?
So that's something I was thinking about recently. When I went to the last Kingston beta, I spoke to Ingrid Riley a little bit about what we were doing, and she said one of her core questions about LinkUp always was our monetization plan. And then I looked around. So there was a point during her presentation where
Who is Ingrid Riley?
One of the top tech entrepreneurs and thought leaders in the space for Jamaica. She runs a website called Silicon Caribe. Great content. Check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what she was saying is that there are certain people who are going to be leaders in the space after she steps down from her major role with the Kingston betas. And one of the things I noticed is all the names and people who are up there, all of their projects generated cash flow relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Which is something I noticed.
Can you give us an example if you remember?
There were things like people who are selling direct e-goods online. There were people who had enterprise packages that were expected to be purchased. One of the big downfalls of LinkUp and a lot of other projects I've seen is there's this idea of building an audience and then monetizing them later.
After that, yeah.
But we know that really, it can work a little bit better in America, but it doesn't even really work there because even Twitter is struggling to monetize.
Yik Yak.
Yeah,
that's the perfect example right there. Yik Yak had so many followers. It was all over like every university in the US, every high school.
Yeah, I would focus on a learning-centric process that generates cash flow quickly and trying to interview basically every customer you have. Yeah. I know that's something we're pushing internally now, but it definitely could have been something we had done in the past. All those people gave us our emails, and we did follow up with some of them to try and set stuff up. But ideally, we should have been learning from them more, and we would have had money coming in to fund initiatives.
Yeah. The thing, though, even after learning, because we did a lot of like follow-up interviews with uninstallers, with brand ambassadors, with anyone that, used or help or reported above that kind of stuff, right? Easily over 100 between 2015 and 2016. No, that's still not a lot. But for 3 people to handle, it seems like quite a bit, right? Even after that point, the problem then becomes, okay, we can fix these issues, but once again, if we're not monetizing early enough, who is that going to matter to?
Right. And another thing I know now that I didn't know back then is that the little tweaks and so on we were doing don't really constitute anything that resembles a true pivot.
Yeah.
Because we never really changed. When you look at LinkUp, they were all really user interface changes and adding new functionality. They didn't adjust the core user's value that they gain from the platform.
Yeah.
And it's in adjusting the value that you can achieve product market fit, not necessarily the minutia of the solution, but actually adjusting the solution.
Yeah, agreed. And tell me if you agree with me here, David, but I think one of the biggest things that we've found out even more recently, talking like end of 2017, early 2018 now, is that a lot of the stuff that we're reading that is applicable in Europe or the US or North America, while that's applicable there, it may not be applicable to Jamaica because we're still behind on certain infrastructures.
Right.
You know, so I definitely think we all agree on this. When we first jumped into doing Link Up, we were like gung ho, like we had all finished university abroad, we're ready to make a change, you know, and then leave an impact. So we're doing all of this research, all of this reading that really didn't apply to a Jamaican audience or a Jamaican market. But where we've seen most success in the past, let's say half a year, maybe even past like 3 months, is when we really dialed it back and leveraged the Jamaicanness of you know, our audience. So we're not going out and saying, let's invest $1,000 into this like Facebook ad or whatever. We're like reaching out to individual people on Twitter, on Instagram, that kind of stuff. Literally building our rapport that way, doing it face to face. Because being a developing country, as I said, the infrastructures also aren't as developed as they were overseas.
Right.
Yeah. So we really can't lean on that as much.
Yeah, I think if there's one key lesson that we took from, I guess, the American experts in entrepreneurship and startups, it's that to pay attention to your customers and your users, to directly speak to them and find out what is it that they're lacking, the pain points that they're experiencing, the feedback that they can provide, their perspectives on the market and what they want from it. And making adjustments to your product based on the answers that you get from them. I feel completely safe and sure in saying that listening to the user is key.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think this is one of the I want to say rare cases where, quote unquote, being ahead of your time is truly like your downfall. You can't come to Jamaica with, I don't know, some amazing rocket space program thing, right? Idea for a startup like SpaceX in Jamaica. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that would get anywhere.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because we're just not there yet. We're on our way, you know, and everybody in the private sector and the public sector is working towards it. But yeah, you have to recognize, as you rightfully pointed out, David, you have to listen to the audience.
Yeah, and listen to the broader market as well. A lot of Jamaican entrepreneurs, particularly those who are truthfully in our category, who maybe studied abroad, came back, or live a certain lifestyle based on the media they consume, often they're not really in touch with what their target audience wants and expects. Their expectations are out of line.
Yeah, very true, very true. And definitely striking that balance and making sure you're not just building something because you want to build it, but because there's a need for it, as was pointed out earlier, is one of the biggest things that you can do. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter. It's like, if all I want is a bar of chocolate and you make me, I don't know, a bowl of pasta, then, you know, what is that? I mean, of course, I'd still be fed, but I think you get the point on
right.
going through.
I remember you and I, KP, we had a meeting with another entrepreneur one time. And sadly, I can't remember his name and we didn't keep in touch. But he had talked about the difference between a vitamin and a painkiller solution.
Oh, yes.
And Jamaica is a painkiller country.
Yeah.
The solutions you offer have to meet some type of deep need that's going to improve the person's life to a substantial degree. Offering something that increases their productivity a little bit or increases their happiness a little bit, those are vitamin solutions. We need things that actually bring huge value to their lives. Most people won't take their vitamins every day, but if they are in pain, they'll take their painkiller.
Right.
Yeah.
Jamaicans are more focused on saving money rather than saving time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I remember even when we were like coming on to the tail end of Link Up, when we were really getting ready to make that big pivot, I don't remember if it was all three of us or if it was just a conversation that David led, but we're trying to value Link Up, like put a dollar value on it. Like if it were to sell, how much would it go for if we were to use, you know, the conventional pricing strategies? I think if so much time went into Link Up that it is like very easily a very expensive product. But as you said, like time isn't even necessarily the major factor that goes into something like that, especially not from a Jamaican standpoint, because it's more about something, you know, tangible like money.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like that's something a number of local entrepreneurs are also bumping into, because I remember when I went to Kingston Beta back in 2015, or was it 2016?
2016.
2016. There were maybe 3 or 4 music apps there trying to do the same thing, leveraging the Jamaican audience and building an app that is catered towards reggae and dancehall music. And then, you know, there are ideas about expanding to the rest of the Caribbean. So you get soca, maybe some Latin music like bachata, merengue, that kind of stuff. And the thing is, it was just very difficult to stick for that very same reason. You know, if it's not curing a problem, then it's really not going to be as impactful as we want it to be. Because the thing is, Jamaicans, they're fine using YouTube. They're fine downloading from YouTube. Yeah. Jamaicans may not necessarily even have a Spotify account. Like, yeah, some do, but YouTube works just fine. SoundCloud works just fine.
Yeah.
So
they don't have to pay for it. Yeah.
Exactly. They have 3 alternatives. And while they're not, obviously not as catered to them as these startups and these apps that were coming out in like 2016, they worked. So it's really difficult to say, okay, let me invest my money in this when I already know there's a free alternative that, you know, I've been working with this whole time. If it isn't broken, don't fix it.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, another major issue I'd say in the Jamaican entrepreneurship space, while we have some incubators such as, you know, the Branson Center for Entrepreneurship, which I went to back in 2016 as well, definitely learned quite a bit from them. I didn't go through the entire program, but I took what I learned and of course shared it with the team. I don't think there are enough structures that support entrepreneurs to a high enough degree to make them, you know, break over that hump.
Yeah. The thing is, those structures tend to come out of experienced and successful entrepreneurs giving back to their communities, but Jamaica doesn't even have enough of those.
Yeah, and that was something that we pointed out in one of our most recent blog posts. You know, when you think back on Jamaican entrepreneurs in the past 10, 15, 20 years, how many can we really name off the top of our head? Or even if we can't name the entrepreneurs, how many products that are so innovative that came out in our lifetime, born from Jamaica, can we name?
All right. Very
few. You know, I mean, of course, there are products and services that won't come to mind, but, you know, have that, but do apply, such as, I don't know if Uber, not Uber the taxi app, but Uber the party, or, you know, any of those social events, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that can apply. But
no, there's stuff like EduFocal.
Yeah,
and which is one of the biggest ones in Jamaica, which is basically a gamification education app.
Yeah. And I remember in high school we had started integrating e-learning.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how far we went with it. It was introduced to us. I really don't think we did that much though. Yeah. But other than that, when I think of major Jamaican entrepreneurs, I think of Michael Leachin. I mean, he's a Jamaican Canadian, but, you know, Jamaican nonetheless. I think of it's very difficult. And of course we have who, sorry?
Chris Daring comes up a lot. He's always like,
right.
hands dipped in a new idea.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we have our local Jamaican personalities that have been doing great stuff for a long time. So I'm not sure when.
One thing that I'm not sure how much time we have left, KP, but
we have about 5 minutes.
Okay. One thing that's interesting is Jamaicans using social media as a business platform.
Mm-hmm.
That's been taking off like very rapidly, as compared to startups.
Yeah, definitely. So you're saying people are selling their like individual brands, or
their personal brands. You have obviously you have like the Instagram skit guys who do the comedy, like Prince Brian, but then you have Instagram models. You have individuals who are just working on their personal brand.
Yeah,
politicians even, you know, social media is hugely leveraged compared to other sectors in tech that have been ported from America.
Yeah, agreed. I know Jamaicans, we love nuffness, we love niceness. So that makes a lot of sense. I can't tell you the number of people that I guess I follow on Instagram for support, whether they have like a small boutique or they're a photographer or like a friend that does nails or carnival makeup, that kind of stuff. Yeah, these are entrepreneurs. So they do apply. You're absolutely right. And then going back to not even personalities born from social media, but people like Usain Bolt that has his own foundation. You know, you have Shelly and Fraser Price, you have Asafa Paul, all of whom are involved in various different things for their personal brand. And that as well also counts. But when you think of household names for people that are known for their entrepreneurial pursuits, there aren't that many.
Right. Another way of looking at it is that a lot of these people are out there. It's just that the publicity and the interaction with them is relatively limited.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, because America has such huge market caps, and there's such a large amount of money there that a lot of entrepreneurs in the U.S. context become extremely wealthy. Whereas based on Jamaica and its market and the cash infusion, even if you're successful, you're not going to be on the news as a billionaire.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a lack of visibility.
Yeah. Right. And we're working on getting more integrated in that community as well. So it might be that we do come to know the names as we learn more.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, really taking it back to like the grassroots level. I mean, we learned what we could from the overseas context, but, you know, dial it back and tailor it to the user, as David was saying. So if people are going to get to know your product, to get to know your business and service from watching TVJ or CVM, then that's where you need to be.
Smile Jamaica.
Yeah, Smile Jamaica, CVM at sunrise, that kind of stuff. Definitely. You know, so we really have to go back to those levels. And of course, for the viewers out there, you know, we're just discussing our own experiences. And this is a learning experience for everyone in the conversation, the team, all of you guys as well. So if you have any experiences that you would like to share, then by all means, you know, we're all ears. And maybe one of these days we'll have you on the show as well.
Yeah, drop a comment.
Yeah, a comment, like, subscribe. Gentlemen, any closing statements?
No, just to say that if you have anything you want to tell us, please reach out. I mean, you can reach us right on here. Just as he said, drop a comment. We're willing to talk to you. We're starting small. Let's build this community up a little more.
Yeah, just to echo what you guys said, we're all learning together. So if you guys have any contributions to what we've said here, please let us know. We're trying to figure this out too.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that would bring us to the end of episode 2. Do we call these episodes? I guess we call these episodes of 876 Online. And next week we are coming up to our next topic, which is Vision 2020 Blindness Edition. We definitely made that sound a little more, you know, a little more covert. So hopefully it'll be a good surprise for you guys that are listening. Of course, once again, thank you guys for joining us, and we hope to see you next week, same time, same place. This is Kareem, David, and Alex of JA++ Web Design signing off.